Roses are red, violets are lesbian, carnations are gay, and lavender is queer in general, and violets might also be gay. It's a little confusing, actually. Floriography, or the language of flowers, is obviously nothing new and has a diverse breadth of meaning across cultures and centuries. But one of the most prominent ways that floriography has survived into modern day is with its various meanings to the LGBTQ community. In sapphic spaces in particular, using violets and lavender as a symbolic emblem is a time-honored, well-loved tradition. Hell, I even have violets and lavenders tattooed on me. Right here, my lesbian tattoo. Given that it's Pride Month, of course, my wife and I took a jaunt over to Michigan to visit a lavender farm. What better way to be gay than by surrounding yourself in beautiful purple blooms? Of course, you also have the pansy, the green carnation, and lesser known ones like the lily, the calamus, the narcissus, the daisy. All have done their tenure having deep meaning to queer people back when being gay was still the love that dare not speak its name. Queer-coded flowers are much beloved now as a link to our collective past, but back then, they served a much more serious purpose. Come learn with me. But first, let's hear a quick word from today's sponsor, ZocDoc. So recently I had to find myself a new god-dang endocrinologist, which was a really spooky venture for me because I've struggled to actually find a good one in the past. You hate to spend a ton of money and wait months to see a doctor only for them to not help you literally at all, which has happened to me several times. So it was a good thing that I've already been using ZocDoc because I was able to quickly find a doctor who actually took my needs and concerns seriously. I'm constantly juggling all the doctors I need to see, as well as finding new ones. And when you're actually trying to be productive with your health, you don't have time to waste on accidentally ending up with a subpar doctor, or making 10 billion phone calls, both things that can leave you super discouraged or prone to procrastination. But using ZocDoc has actually made this process so much less painful, letting me search and compare thousands of local and in-network doctors with reviews from actual patients and detailed doctor profiles. Being chronically ill is already hard enough, so it's vital that I find good doctors with actual openings that I don't need to wait months for. So I'm able to stay on top of my issues, and maybe even ahead of them, and instantly book visits, sometimes even same-day appointments depending on the doctor. And then the website helps me track my appointments and intake forms, so I never get buried or overwhelmed trying to keep everything organized. It's truly been a huge weight off my shoulders as someone trying to navigate the ever frustrating and complex medical system. And now, I'm actually becoming more on top of my health than I've ever been. I know how hard it is to find doctors and make appointments, and you deserve to have that process made easier. You can start prioritizing your health today by heading to ZocDoc.com/Kazro, linked in the description below, to get started and check that appointment off your to-do list. Thank you so much to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to learning about some gay flowers. If you want to track gay people throughout history, but especially from like the late 18th century through the 20th century, all you need to do is follow the trail of flowers. Historical texts frequently used code to describe gay people, in particular, the more visible gay men, the effeminate ones that is. And at some point looking at these, you're kind of like, there's a whole lot of garden speak in here. One common term was dubbing gay men horticultural lads, in reference to how they were often called pansies, daisies, or buttercup. An even older one is evening botanists. Honestly, I think we should bring these back. In the 80s, there was a New York City gay writing group called the Violet Quill, and a village gay cafe called the Flower Pot. Queer socialist groups like LA's The Lavender Left adopted the Lavender moniker, and of course there was the lesbian activist coalition, the Lavender Menace, which emerged from Betty Friedan's lesbophobic nickname given to the way that people at the time viewed the National Organization for Women. Relatedly, the Cold War era purging of homosexual government workers was dubbed the Lavender Scare. The color purple in general has become deeply associated with queerness, so much so that I have distinct memories of being in middle school and hearing people on TV or online call a young Justin Bieber gay because his favorite color was purple. Despite being typically referred to with disgust, ridicule, or scorn, terms to refer to gay people were frequently rather delicate or pretty, almost as a backhanded compliment. But why? It is a little bewildering. After all, in these time periods, especially pre-World War II, men being interested in flowers or botany wasn't considered a really feminine or frivolous pursuit at all. Men often adorned their clothes with florals, and collecting flowers and gardening was viewed as a hobby associated with worldliness, culturedness, and being well educated. Victorian people sought to have diverse greenhouses, gardens filled with international specimens, parlors decked out with beautiful plants. So where exactly is this association coming from? Historians have a lot of debate about this one because there really actually isn't a clear answer. Some point to a famous quote from Marcel Proust's Sodome et Gomorrhe, where he said gay men court each other like how flowers get fertilized, whatever that means. Maybe it has a connection to the way that some plants are hermaphroditic, which is why some genderqueer or trans people identify with them. Paula Di Gennaro writes in Hyacinths and Narcissi, The Flowers of Uranian Poetry from Decadence to Modernism, it was during the Victorian age that flowers were invested with a more scientific symbolism, although floriography, the language of flowers, had actually originated in France during Romanticism. Le Langage des Fleurs, the first popular book on the subject, was published in 1819 by Charlotte de la Tour. During the Victorian age, the romantic features associated with flowers became imbued with deeper secret allusions and worked as a means of covert communication, in a period which also witnessed a growing interest in botany. So it makes sense that in an era where flowers are being used to hold silent conversations or convey secret hidden messages, flowers would then be adopted to symbolize some really obvious things that can't be spoken of aloud. Queer stuff. Flowers already had a long-rooted classical association with homoerotic themes. Like for instance, in ancient Greece, handsome boys were referred to as roses, and sensual decadent flowers like lilies and orchids were obviously used popularly in the aesthetic movement, which was teeming with the gays. By the 1890s, floriography had been confidently appropriated by gay writers. E. Madden writes in Say It With Flowers, the poetry of Marc-André Rafalovich, by 1911, the floral had become so much a part of homoerotic verse that John Gambrell Nicholson would call a collection a garland of lad's love, punning the name of the plant. Not only could Wilde in 1895 refer to two young men as flowers of the narcissus kind to describe their sexual predilections, but an attention to the floral itself was read as a sign of sexuality. Oscar Wilde, you say? He's the source of quite a lot of gay symbolic tradition, honestly, and flowers were one of his favorites. In The Importance of Being Earnest, the character Miss Prism even quips, "I spoke horticulturally," a little wink at the audience. A common and highly visible flower trend was the wearing of a green carnation on one's lapel. The carnation in general has many varied meanings in floriography. The red carnation, which is often associated with the blood of Christ, sometimes means, "Alas, my poor heart," while striped ones can mean refusal, or the yellow ones, disdain. The green carnation as a trend for gay men began, unsurprisingly, with Oscar Wilde when in 1892, on opening night for his play Lady Windermere's Fan, he told his buddies to show up wearing green carnations on their lapels. And being the famous bitter old queen that he was, this started a long-standing association of green carnations with gay men. Not really surprising, given that by this point, flowers and gay men already had a traditional bond. The same year, Wilde's temperamental and ill-fated boyfriend, Lord Alfred Douglas, penned a famous poem titled Two Loves, which detailed a dream of gay love compared to a number of flowers like lilies, crocuses, and violets, a man with wind-tossed hair twined with flowers, and roses about his neck, cheeks like lilies, and lips like poppies. This poem is where the phrase, "the love that dare not speak its name," comes from. And in hindsight, it's incredibly sad knowing what later happened to both Douglas and Wilde. Watch my video on the topic to learn a lot more about that. A lot of satirical, often homophobic cartoons of Wilde drew him surrounded by flowers or as a flower, usually a daisy or a sunflower. But the green carnation stuck around largely as a symbol of Oscar Wilde himself specifically, as following his trial and subsequent death, he became regarded by the community Mairi as something of a martyr for the queer cause. During the trial, a scandalous book was anonymously published about Wilde and Douglas titled The Green Carnation, and was a big reason he was found guilty. He denied having written the book, however, pleading in a letter from prison, "Sir, kindly allow me to contradict, in the most emphatic manner, the suggestion that I am the author of The Green Carnation. I invented that magnificent flower, but with the middle class and mediocre book that usurps its strangely beautiful name, I have, I need hardly say, nothing whatsoever to do. The flower is a work of art, the book is not." Another much forgotten flower associated with gay men is the calamus. But instead of Wilde, the author who started this one was gay poet Walt Whitman. In Leaves of Grass, Whitman details queer themes in his 45 calamus poems, deliberately encouraging readers to adopt this plant as a gay symbol. In number 4 he writes, "And here what I now draw from the water, wading in the pond side, oh here I last saw him that tenderly loves me, and returns again, never to separate from me, and this, oh this, shall henceforth be the token of comrades, this calamus root shall interchange it, youths, with each other, let none render it back, but what I drew from the water by the pond side, that I reserve, I will give of it, but only to them that I love, as I myself am capable of loving." Walt Whitman lived for a time in Brooklyn, where wild calamus grew abundantly, lining the glimmering waterways and coastlines, places where hot young men often congregated and likely cruised. Historian Hugh Ryan also theorizes in When Brooklyn Was Queer, great book by the way, that the appeal of the calamus as a gay token is due to its phallic shape, in addition to the fact that etymologically, the name calamus is in reference to the Greek kalamos and karpos, two tragic male lovers. Whitman himself was extremely well known as a gay man at the time, specifically to other gay men who picked up what he was putting down in his writing. Calamus is, I think, a really interesting and honestly lovely plant to choose as a gay love token. The root obviously has a connotation for gay men, but it also sometimes has a beautiful flower that looks remarkably similar to a violet, another key queer-coded flower. But calamus is sadly largely forgotten, unlike another woody purple plant that now dominates the scene. Lavender is a hard one to trace, with its roots being associated with sapphism or gay people in general. Its florological meaning is often distrust, which is bizarre to me because it's such a soothing plant. According to Penhaligon's treasury, The Language of Flowers, the reason behind this was that back in the day, tiny little venomous snakes would hang out under lavender plants, and so people became wary of them. I don't know if that's actually true, but unlike other flowers where we can sort of figure out a source, lavender's source as a queer symbol is almost entirely speculative. Most historians are just kind of like, well, it's purple, so that's probably it. Many historians' best guess is that lavender as a symbol was circulated by word of mouth intercommunally before finally appearing in print as a reference to queerness around the 20s, with some things like the Weimar era cabaret anthem, The Lavender Song. There was also the 1929 Cole Porter song, I'm a Gigolo, which sings, "And of lavender my nature's got just a dash in it." Cole Porter was a well-known gay performer. The phrase, "a streak of lavender," was clearly an established one by the 20s, as it was used famously in Carl Sandburg's 1926 piece on Abraham Lincoln, "A streak of lavender ran through him. He had spots soft as May violets." Okay, the take that Abraham Lincoln was gay would have been a mind-blowing one in the 20s. I can't even begin to have a take on that right now. But it was then later being cemented in the mid-century with the Lavender Scare, and later with things like lavender marriages, where a gay man and a lesbian would get married for social safety. So the use of lavender is more obscured, but it certainly has longevity. And today, you can find lavender adorning all sorts of gay art. It's one of my favorite things. Early on when we were dating, my wife crocheted me these cute little lavenders, and they're one of my most treasured possessions. Ugh, we had so much fun at the lavender farm yesterday. It's called Lavender Bliss Farm in Michigan. Go be gay at a lavender farm right now. I can't recommend it enough. The hyacinth and iris sometimes appear in gay symbology, referencing Ovid's myth of Apollo and his lover Hyacinthus, in which which Apollo created the iris in honor of his man's following his death. Again, with the purple flowers, like, you see how the purple thing runs really deep? Hyacinths reappeared as a common theme in Uranian poetry, or poetry published by English gay men from around like the 1880s through 1930. The hyacinth, along with the narcissus, were used to connect contemporary gay poetry to a common gay history rooted in the arguably openly homosexual ancient Greece and classicism. Finding an intrinsic connection to Greece and Greek antiquity is an extremely common theme in gay male biographies and literature of the 19th and early 20th century. You see it, for example, in one of my favorite books, E.M. Forster's Maurice, where the character Clive takes a pilgrimage to Greece to try and explore and make peace with his gay inclinations, and fails. Famously, bum-ass Lord Byron spent a lot of time in Greece, thoroughly enjoying the laissez-faire attitude that the region had towards homosexual men. Paola Di Gennaro continues, the continuous movement among genres and semantic fields, pivoting on well-known images, sinuously draws on eschamotages, camouflages, and dislocations meant to conceal the beloved one's sexual identity. Flowers are employed, just like various other codes, to veil meanings and reference in the poems, the reference to classical myths, for example, or to famous gay figures and couples could easily ring a bell to receptive ears. Like, if you know, you know. In floriography, violets mean modesty, probably because of their early blooming season and their gentle scent, hidden in the tall grasses that they grow in. I mean, as you've probably noticed, violets historically have been used as a symbol for both gay men and lesbians. Violets became a popular symbol in the decadent movement, and especially among decadent gay men, because at the time, new artificial shades of violet were being developed chemically that didn't commonly exist in nature. Violets as a key symbol for lesbians obviously goes back to the Sappho poems, which are obviously the subject of a lot of academic debate, but are widely accepted as being an example of woman-to-woman romance in antiquity. Sappho is so heavily associated with women loving women, despite numerous writers' attempts to heterosexualize her, that our community itself is named after her and the island of Lesbos on which she lived. In two of the few fragments of her poetry that survives, she writes, "And you, Dika, put lovely garlands round your hair, weaving together slips of anise with gentle hands, since the blessed graces look more to the flowerful but turn away from the ones without garlands." And in a different fragment, "Many crowns of violets, roses, and crocuses, together you set before more and many-scented wreaths made from blossoms around your soft throat. With pure sweet oil you anointed me, and on a soft gentle bed you quenched your desire. No holy site we left uncovered, no grove." Even though she mentions numerous flowers here, the theme of violets or purple comes up repeatedly, and the association of Sappho with violets became especially glued when Renée Vivien translated Sappho's works. Vivien, herself a Sapphic woman, loved violet and its symbology, in part because her lover was a woman named Violet Shillito, who died sadly very young. The connection was conveniently already there. Sapphic artists like Maria Luisa Caterina Breslau painted lesbian art filled with violet hues and violet flowers. Emily Dickinson apparently wrote a poem to her alleged girlfriend Sue Gilbert mentioning violets, writing, "And still her hum the years among deceives the butterfly. Still in her eye the violets lie, mouldered this many May. I spilt the dew, but I took the morn. I chose this single star from out the wide night's numbers. Sue forevermore." It was made extra popular following the controversial Broadway run of Edouard Bornet's 1926 play called The Captive, in which a woman gives another woman a bunch of violets, and the play overall is heavily lesbianic. The Captive was a huge hit, especially with Sapphic couples, and the popularity made it a huge target for homophobic vitriol. One reviewer named George Jean Nathan said that it was, quote, "the most subjective, corruptive, and potentially evil-fraught play ever shown in the American theater, nothing more or less than a documentary in favor of sex degeneracy." In response, the ever-opportunistic bum William Randolph Hearst used the play as a key feature in his campaign to illegally censor theater. In 1927, police raided showings of The Captive and Mae West's even more gay productions, Sex, and Mae West herself was arrested too. Free her!
Goodness, what beautiful diamonds. Goodness had nothing to do with it, dearie.
So The Captive was officially shut down, and the moral panic surrounding the play caused people to officially and firmly associate violets with lesbians. Violet sales in the US tanked. Can't be having those dykey flowers in our home gardens. But the symbolism of the violet also led people to use violets as a marker of allyship, and lesbians happily took to following in Sappho's footsteps and gifting bunches of violets to their lovers. But the violet and lavender aren't the only purple flowers that have gay roots. Gay men have one too, the pansy. The modern pansy itself, actually, I didn't know this before, was actually bred into its modern form in the early 19th century by crossbreeding heartsease and certain other viola variants. So by the time it was used as a nickname for effeminate gay men, it was a fairly new plant. It can often mean, keep me in your thoughts, and was seen as a flower that would attract love, in reference to Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, in which the pansy's ancestor, the heartsease, also called the love and idleness or wild pansy, can make someone, in this case Queen Titania, fall deeply in love with the first person they see upon waking from sleep, after the juice from the flower is squeezed into their eyelids. Pansy has been one of the most common slang names for gay men for over a century, so much so that for a moment in the early 20th century it was the ubiquitous term, where places like Broadway and Times Square in New York City became hot gathering spots not only for pansies, but for straight people looking to get a glimpse of them or take pictures with them. The theater district often had pansy shows or pansy acts for people to gawk at, or people would visit well-known pansy haunts like cafeterias and tea houses to catch a view of the pansies on parade.
Where are we going?
Well, you said you wanted to go slumming, so I picked a place to eat in the village. Only wild poets and anarchists eat there. It's pretty tough.
If a sailor in pajamas I should see, I know he'd scare the life out of me. And on a great big battleship you'd like to be, working as chambermaids as
This curious widespread interest in pansies led Hollywood itself to develop a number of films featuring effeminate and foppish characters, rounding out the pansy craze of the 20s and 30s. This term was coined by George Chauncey in his book Gay New York, which is a brick of a read, but I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites. He writes, "Queer doings were also regularly given the spotlight in reviews designed for higher class audiences, such as the Ritz Review and artists and models, according to several observers, including one who went on to ask why, quote, the public enjoys seeing such queer doings portrayed in some of the most expensive and exclusive productions if they are as disgusting as people say they are." Problematic as it was, and it was, especially because a great deal of these pansy acts were straight actors putting on a gay look and accent, the popularity and visibility of the pansy did, in a way, also benefit the community to an extent, as more and more gay people took advantage of the slummer's curiosity and spent more time out and about, outside the closet, just sort of being themselves. Short-lived it was, however, as tensions forced many people back underground following World War II. But the term pansy persisted.
I may not know my flowers, but I know a bitch when I see one.
I guess in the end, the persistent association of queer people and flowers makes a lot of sense. Like us, flowers are diverse, colorful, unapologetic, and sometimes a little odd. Maybe a lot odd, but that's what makes them wonderful. Thank you for learning with me about gay people and flowers. I hope you've had a lovely and safe Pride Month, and speaking of purple gay people, don't forget to grab a copy of my graphic novel, Liberated: The Radical Art and Life of Claude Gahen. And until next time, wash thy hands, wear thy mask, and give a bouquet of violets to your lover.